Hey everyone, Teo here. Welcome to the artist review of the Xiaomi Pad 6. So this review was requested so many times and now I finally have the tablet. So the reason why it took so long for me to get this tablet is because I was waiting to find the right deal, the best deal, because my YouTube channel actually doesn't make that much money for me to be able to buy products without thinking. So I bought this tablet here in Singapore for around $400 and that includes the Xiaomi Smart Pen Gen 2 and the folio case. So this is the folio case that I am currently using. It's not the most stable, but you can still use it to prop up the tablet for drawing. The Xiaomi Pad 6 is a tablet that is not widely available, but you can find this on AliExpress. And if you do want to get this tablet, make sure you get the global ROM so that everything is in English and it comes with the Google Play Store. If you buy it from AliExpress, it's around $350 and Xiaomi Smart Pen Gen 2 is sold separately, and you may also want to get a case as well. So the total will add up to around $400, which in my opinion is really worth the money, especially for the tablet. But for the pen, there are some quirks that you really need to know before you decide to get this tablet for drawing purposes. Let me give you the bottom line up front. The hardware for this tablet is fantastic. The specs are good for a tablet at the $300 and $400 price range. The display is beautiful, bright and vibrant, and the overall performance of this tablet is smooth and lag-free. The battery life is about 10 to 14 hours. The battery life is exceptionally good and you can easily get above 12 hours. The pen's drawing performance is okay. The drawing experience provided by the pen is good, however the pen is not as sensitive compared to the Samsung S Pen. There seems to be some issues with tilt sensitivity, at least with this particular pen that I have. And I will talk more about that later on. So the bottom line is, if you want to buy this tablet for drawing purposes, do note the limitations that I will show you later on. I do enjoy drawing on this tablet. It's just not as the pen is just not as sensitive compared to the Samsung S Pen when you have a side-by-side comparison. I will talk more about the drawing experience later on when I draw with Medibang Paint, Infinite Painter, Clip Studio, and Concepts. Alright, on to the full review. Let me show you the items included with the purchase of this tablet. In the box you will find a tablet, a quick start guide, warranty info, a USB-A to USB-C charging cable, and this 33-watt fast charger. The other accessories are sold separately, such as the Xiaomi Smart Pen Gen 2, the folio case, and the keyboard folio case. The price of the Xiaomi Smart Pen Gen 2 is US $50 to $60 on AliExpress. And before you buy the pen, make sure it specifically mentions second generation. I am not sure whether the first generation pen is compatible with the Xiaomi Pad 6. And inside this box there is only one spare pen tip. So this pen supports tilt, slightly over 4,000 levels of pressure sensitivity, and there is palm rejection. The pen has two side buttons which are unfortunately not customizable for many of the drawing apps that I have tested. I like the tapered design here compared to the S Pen design, because when you tilt the S Pen too low, this part here can touch the glass and will affect tilt performance. This pen tip has slight movement when in contact with the glass. Can you see the movement? I will still consider this pen tip to be a firm pen tip because the movement is minimal.
The plastic pen tip is quite smooth on the glass, but it's not slippery.
To replace the pen tip, you just pull this out and replace it with a new one. It's easy. You can find replacement pen tips for US $10 to $20 for 4 pieces on AliExpress. This pen has solid build quality. I like the matte textured surface and the diameter. This pen is quite comfortable to hold, and this is how the design compares with the Apple Pencil, which you can see looks very similar. And this is the OnePlus Stylo. This pen is powered by battery and it requires Bluetooth for pairing with the tablet. To pair and charge the pen, you just have to attach it by the side of the tablet, and this battery life indicator will appear, which is an improvement over the previous pen because there is now the battery life indicator. I'm not sure what's the battery life for the pen, but it's not something you will need to worry about because when you're not using the pen, you just attach it to the side so that the pen is always charged. There are 3 models for Xiaomi Pad 6. This one that I have here is the 11-inch Xiaomi Pad 6 with Snapdragon 870 processor. There is the Xiaomi Pad 6 Pro, which is also 11 inches, but that has better cameras and the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 processor. And Xiaomi has recently announced the Xiaomi Pad 6 Max, which has the same specifications as the Pro model, except it comes with a 14-inch display. So I went with the cheapest model because Snapdragon 870 is still fast enough for general purpose use and for drawing. The Pad 6 is more affordable compared to the Pro and Max models, and you can use the savings to get more storage for this tablet because there is no micro SD card slot, and you can use the savings to buy other accessories such as the Xiaomi Smart Pen Gen 2, the folio or the keyboard folio case. The Xiaomi Pad 6 is an incremental upgrade over the previous generation. Some of the upgrades are it now uses Snapdragon 870 versus 860. This is still an 11-inch IPS LCD, but the resolution is higher, so the visuals look slightly sharper. The refresh rate has increased from 120 Hz to 144 Hz. On the back, the camera bump is much bigger, and even though it looks like there are 2 cameras, there is only 1 camera. And this tablet is available in 3 colors. This is the gold or the champagne color. The other 2 colors are black or gray and blue. The overall build quality for this tablet is still solid. It's a very beautiful tablet with thin uniform bezels on all 4 sides, rounded corners for the body, the metal frame, and for the LCD. The display, as you can see, is very glossy, very reflective because there is no anti-reflective coating. The display is vibrant and sharp. The colors look great out of the box. The brightness is slightly over 500 nits. Viewing angles are good with minimal color shift, and that slight drop in brightness probably due to the thickness of the glass. On the side here you can see 2 speakers, and there are 2 more here at the bottom. The audio quality is good. The audio is loud, clear, and has a good amount of bass. And here you can see the power button. There is no fingerprint scanner here. And at the top, that's the volume button, and that's the charging area for the pen. Now this tablet is quite thin and is very portable. The weight is 490 grams without the case, and even with a case on, it's still very portable because this is just an 11-inch display. This is a tablet that you can hold easily with the case on with one hand and draw on it. The USB-C port has USB 3.2 transfer speed, so file transfers are really fast. There is video output, but this tablet does not have PC mode or desktop mode, so you can only get mirror mode when you connect this tablet to an external display. The camera is here in landscape orientation, and you can use that for face unlock, which works quite fast and effectively. The resolution of this display is 2880 by 1800, so this is an increase over the previous generation, which uses 1440p plus resolution. The The aspect ratio is 16:10, which is nice. 16:10 aspect ratio provides you with enough space for palettes on the left and right. However, due to the 11-inch display size, if you have palettes on the left and right, your drawing area will be smaller. So whenever I'm drawing, I usually just have one palette by the side to maximize the drawing space. And this is how big the display is compared to an A5 size sketchbook. So the display is slightly wider, but slightly shorter. An 11-inch display is still a very comfortable size to work with for drawing. All the user interface elements, at least for this app, Medibang Paint, still looks big enough. This is Krita, and the user interface elements look big. However, this app has many palettes, so it feels kind of claustrophobic. If you want to use Krita, you will definitely need to hide some of the palettes. This is Clip Studio Paint. The user interface elements look big enough as well. And Clip Studio Paint has recently introduced this new feature called Simple Mode, where you can get this tablet style user interface with minimal user interface elements. So now you get more drawing space. However, this Simple Mode does not have all the features that you can get with the Studio Mode. The display is laminated, so there is no gap between the glass and the LCD beneath. So when writing or drawing, there is no gap between the line and the pen tip. Overall performance of this tablet is smooth and lag-free, and you can play graphics-intensive games without any lag, without choppy animation, so this gameplay is very smooth. And because the gameplay is smooth, I don't see any reason to buy the more expensive Xiaomi Pad 6 Pro over the Pad 6. And the gaming experience is actually quite similar to the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 and S9, which are more expensive. So with the Xiaomi Pad 6, you are really getting a pretty good deal for the specifications. At the 300 to 400 USD price range or price category, multitasking works fine. Let's talk about MIUI. Let me just close this game first. I don't have much to say about MIUI because it works fine. So after transferring my artworks from the Samsung tablet over here, I'm already using 128 gigabytes of storage, and a lot of the storage were used up by those games which I have to uninstall later on. So MIUI has split screen mode. To go into split screen mode, just tap here on the app, enter split screen mode, tap on another app, that's Google Play Store by the way, which is pre-installed. And someone asked me about GoodNotes. GoodNotes for some reason is not available for installation on the Xiaomi Pad 6, but I could install GoodNotes on another Android tablet that I have. If you open apps that are portrait only, Xiaomi MIUI will open those apps in the correct orientation for you, but there will be empty space by the left and right. Xiaomi MIUI does not have PC mode or desktop mode. This tablet is running on Android 13 and the current MIUI version is 14. According to Xiaomi, they will provide at least 2 major Android updates and 3 years of security updates. I wouldn't worry too much about the lack of updates from year 3 onwards, because not having those updates does not mean your apps will stop running. It does not mean that you will no longer be able to install apps from the Google Play Store. The tablet will still work as it's working now. The default file management app from Xiaomi is very basic. There is no direct integration with cloud storage services such as Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, and Dropbox, so you cannot copy your files to the cloud storage. But of course, you can always tap on your file or folder and share it to the cloud storage directly. I also want to talk about the default screen recording app from Xiaomi, which is pretty good because this allows you to record the full resolution of the tablet, which is a feature that is not commonly found on other Android tablets. And you can get compression quality up to 100 megabits bits per second, and you can record up to 90 frames per second. For backup, there is the option to backup using a computer. I have not tried this yet, so I cannot tell you whether or not this will back up every single thing on the tablet. If you use your tablet to create art, I would recommend you find out where your artworks are stored locally on the tablet so that you can back up those artworks manually yourself. If you save your artwork to the cloud, then you don't really have to worry about backing up your artworks. If you're considering getting an Android tablet for drawing, I'm happy to tell you that there are many capable drawing apps available from the Google Play Store. There are desktop apps such as Clip Studio, Paint, and Krita. There is Infinite Painter, Medibang Paint, Concepts, Sketchbook is very popular as well, and Heavy Paint is pretty good too. The main downside of an Android tablet for visual content creators is there's a lack of high-quality graphic design apps that can handle typography, layout, and vector. It's not to say that there are no apps that can handle typography, vector, and layout. It's just that on the iPad there are more such apps. Time for some line tests. Let's look at the latency first. So there is latency as the line is trying to catch up with the pen tip, and how much latency there is will depend on the app you use. So Medibang Paint has pretty noticeable latency. If I switch over to Concepts, I can still see latency, but the gap between the line and the pen tip is smaller. Anyway, even when I'm doing quick sketches, I'm not really bothered by the latency. Let's test the initial activation force. This app is Medibang Paint, which is an app I like to use for line tests because this app does not provide any software correction to the lines. So I'm trying to draw the thin lines with as minimal pressure as I can, and I'm drawing them slowly to see whether there is any diagonal line wobble or jitter. So let's zoom in and have a look. Initial activation force is low, but you will still have to press down ever so slightly to get the line. And I can see wobble and jitter with the slow diagonal lines. So if you draw faster like this, the lines will be straighter. And this is how thick the line really is. One potential issue that I noticed with this pen is when I hold the pen vertically like this, when I draw lines, the lines seem to be thicker compared to when I hold the pen normally like this to draw. You can definitely see these lines are thinner compared to the lines earlier. And I'm trying to draw this with minimal pressure. Let's look at the tapered strokes. So the lines are able to taper quite smoothly and sharply. And this is an improvement over the first generation pen where the line actually tapers quite abruptly. So this is good. This is the line transition from thin to thick. And this is, in my opinion, the true test of pressure sensitivity. As I try to draw the thin lines again, I find that it's not that easy. So I can draw the thick lines, but when I try to draw the thin lines again, yeah, you can see the lines are still quite thick compared to the lines initially. And these are also diagonal lines, so you can still see slight wobble. But at least there is no variance with the line thickness, so it's just the issue with the slight wobble. You can draw dots easily by tapping on the display. Palm rejection works great most of the time. So for this app, I have disabled finger drawing, so I can place my palm on the display and draw. Let's look at tilt sensitivity. This app I'm using is Infinite Painter, and the brush is Dry Inker. So I can get the thin lines and the thick lines from pressure. And if I tilt the pen, I can get those broad strokes, the broad smudgers, And if I hold the pen vertically again, I can get the solid thick lines and now the thin lines. So it seems like the Xiaomi Smart Pen has low initial activation force and the lines can taper sharply and smoothly. And the issue seems to be with the slow diagonal lines where there is slight jitter and wobble. However, when I try to draw and write with the pen, what I see is slightly different compared to the results from those line tests. For example, with these letters that I have written with the Xiaomi Smart Pen, let's have a closer look. You can see the lines, they don't taper as smoothly or as sharply. I mean, it's quite smooth, but it's not that tapered. The taper is quite abrupt. You can see this is quite round. This is very round, especially for the letter M and also for Q, R, S, T. Now let's look at the Samsung S Pen with the hard plastic nib for comparison. So here you can see this is quite abrupt as well, but this part here it's tapered. Here we have taper as well, and letter E we have the taper. J, it's quite abrupt, it's quite round, but for K we have the taper, L we have the taper, Q we have the taper here, taper, taper, and taper, taper. Let's look at the Xiaomi Smart Pen again. It's round, round, slight taper, round, 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 round. Let's look at the Samsung S Pen with the soft tip. So the soft tip is even more sensitive. Sometimes the plastic tip is more sensitive, but sometimes the soft tip is more sensitive, in this case for writing. So with this letter A, you can even see variation for the line thickness. This line is thicker, this stroke down is thinner, and there is taper here. There is also taper here, 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 here. The taper is very obvious, and you can get variation with the line thickness. So the alphabets or the letters here actually look better compared to here where I'm using the hard tip. And when you see these four letters Q, R, S, T, again you can see the taper. The handwriting or note-taking experience is just better with the Samsung S Pen with the soft nib followed by the hard nib. And the Xiaomi pen, it can be used for taking notes. It's just that the style of the letter, the stroke, isn't quite there yet. And depending on the note-taking app you use or the drawing app you use, sometimes the app may provide software correction to make those lines look better. But in this case, the app that I'm using is Medibang Paint Pro. It does not give you that software correction. So this is the actual line quality you can expect from the pen. So this performance is not bad, it's good enough, but the Samsung S Pen has better drawing and writing performance. Let's talk more about the drawing experience while I test the pen with more drawing apps. So this app is Krita. Let's take a look at the tapered strokes. So I can see this shoelace effect where the line will taper very abruptly to this thin line. And you can see that happen quite consistently. So this is definitely an issue when it comes to drawing. And also the diagonal line wobble here is quite obvious. With Krita, you definitely need to apply brush smoothing. So right now I'm using the weighted brush smoothing, and you can see the lines are now smoother. Let's see whether I can taper the lines. Nope, the lines still taper with that shoelace effect, even with brush smoothing. This next app I'm using is Concepts, which is one of my main illustration and sketching apps. I have already enabled palm rejection, so when I use my finger, it will just move the canvas. So let's draw something really quickly. I don't have any issues with Concepts because This app is extremely forgiving, even if you use a pen that does not have good pressure sensitivity. So let me show you how smooth the lines can be. Let me draw a smooth curve here, a diagonal curve. So this is quite straight. There is some jitter, but if you draw a bit faster, the lines will be smoother. And usually I do not draw that slow. Palm rejection can affect drawing in, I would say, two ways. It may introduce stray strokes, which is not what's happening right now. The other way palm rejection can affect drawing is sometimes you may accidentally activate finger gestures to undo, and that can be quite annoying. And with the Xiaomi Pad 6, seems fine. I don't have accidental activation for palm rejection, so I don't have any issues with this app. Let me show you another sketch that I have drawn earlier. Definitely no issues with concepts, because this app is really forgiving even if you use a stylus that has poor or lousy pressure sensitivity. The next app I'm using is Infinite Painter, and I'm using the Samsung tablet Tab S9 Ultra first to show you how the lines look here, so that you have something to compare to later on. So this brush is the dry inker brush. If I apply light pressure, I get dry strokes like this. If I press down hard, I get the thicker lines with rough edges. And if I tilt the pen, you can see the smudges. Okay, so let's draw a very quick sketch. Now this brush is quite thick, that's 51 pixels. And it shouldn't be a problem if I use this brush to just draw like one sketch without changing the brush width at all. So I can get the thin lines, yep, no issues there. I can use the thin lines for details. As I barely glance the pen tip on the glass, I can get those dry strokes like this, which looks nice. And if I press down harder, you can see the darker lines, they will come out. Okay, so I really enjoy drawing with this pen. Let's switch over to the Xiaomi Smart Pen 2. Let me show you the lines again. We have the thin lines, thick lines, and the smudges. Okay, let's draw the same subject again. I can sense and see that the pen is not as sensitive compared to the Samsung S Pen, because you don't see much line variation here in terms of the thickness, even though I actually vary my thickness, my pressure. Okay, right now I'm drawing with very minimal pressure, and the lines are still thicker than I expect. I mean, the lines are thin, but they are thicker than I expect. Now later on I will show you a side-by-side comparison with the Samsung S Pen. So let me smudge this area here. The pen tip, the plastic pen tip actually feels good on the surface. It's not too slippery. It's just nice. So I don't think you need a screen protector unless you want to prevent your screen from getting scratches. And if you want to get a screen protector, I'll probably recommend you get those glass screen protectors so that it doesn't affect the image quality of the display. Here's a side-by-side comparison. So this is the Samsung tablet and this is the Xiaomi tablet. You may notice the color of the white is different. That's due to the color temperature and also the OLED contrast versus the LCD contrast. So let's look at the line quality. So with the Samsung tablet, you can see as I apply minimal pressure, the lines here are so soft. But with the Xiaomi Pad, even when I apply minimal pressure, the lines here are thicker. And the smudges here, they just look better in my opinion. I see more line variation here. I see the dry lines, I see the solid lines, and I also see the smudges. But for the Xiaomi Pad, I don't really see those dry lines because the lines are more solid. So I only get the darker lines and the smudges. I also noticed as I was drawing with the Samsung S Pen, the lines, they just come out the way I expect them to, especially how thick and thin the lines are produced. But for the Xiaomi, I just can't get that variation that I want. There is still the variation with the thin and the thick lines, and if you tilt the pen very intentionally, you can get the broad strokes, the smudges. But generally speaking, the lines are just more expressive due to the better pressure sensitivity support for the Samsung S Pen. Let's compare these two sketches. So on the Samsung tablet, again, you can see the thin dry lines, the solid lines, the smudges. So there is a lot of variation, which makes the line art look more interesting. Whereas on the Xiaomi tablet, you can see the line variation isn't quite there. Yes, there is the thin lines, the thick lines, but for the smudges, I have to really intentionally tilt the pen in a way so that the smudges can appear. And if you see this part here, I could draw the thin lines, thick lines, and the smudges so easily. But on the Xiaomi tablet, it's not that easy. It's not as if I am drawing differently, I'm just drawing as per normal, but I could get better line art quality with the Samsung S Pen. Next, let's use Clip Studio Paint. So this is the Clip Studio Paint Simple mode. Let me show you how Studio mode looks. So with Studio mode, it's more cramped because of the palettes by the side. So you get more drawing space with Simple mode. However, with Simple mode, you don't have many features. And at the time of making this video, they don't even have the clear layer feature. So let me just delete this layer and create a new layer, actually create a few more layers. So let's draw with this brush, bit husky. Okay, this brush is kind of thick, so let me just reduce this to maybe 10 pixels, maybe thicker, 17. Okay, this is good. Let's see the lines you can create with this brush. Thin lines, thick lines. Okay, that's nice. Let's draw. Okay, as I lay down the line, I can straight away feel that this pen, the initial activation for the gain is not as good compared to the Samsung S Pen. Because if I use the same brush with the Samsung S Pen, I'm pretty sure I can get thinner lines than what you see here. So if I need the thinner lines, I will have to reduce the brush size. Let me just increase the brush size. It is not easy for me to draw thin lines, even with this thick brush that's selected. Yeah, it's not easy. This is the Samsung tablet. So let me draw the thin and thick lines very deliberately. Okay, so I can definitely see more line variation here. Here's a side-by-side comparison again. So on the Samsung tablet, once again, we can see more line variation. We see thin lines, thick lines, thin lines, thick lines. But on the Xiaomi tablet, we see the line width is quite consistent. there isn't much line variation, and it's not as if I did not vary the pressure while drawing. One strange thing I noticed with the Xiaomi Pad 6 is when I have the tablet flat on my leather desk pad, finger gestures do not work. But if I tilt the tablet at an angle away from the desk pad, finger gestures work again. If I have the tablet on this wooden table, notice it undid all those letters and this does not work. I'm not sure what's wrong with this table or with the tablet. Anyway, when I have the tablet on another table, it works fine. So maybe there is something wrong with this table. Let us continue drawing on the Xiaomi tablet with Clip Studio Paint. Drawing performance is okay, it's okay, but as mentioned so many times, it's better on the Samsung tablet. The last app I want to show you is Medibang Paint. So I can see the thin and thick lines. This is how thick the brush is. Okay, this is how thin the lines can be. Okay, let's have some thick lines. Now, Medibang Paint actually performs quite well. So some apps will perform better than other drawing apps with this pen. With CSP, you can actually adjust the pressure curve to help out with the sensitivity. But Medibang Paint, it doesn't have that feature. Okay, this is actually pretty good. Good as in I can see or get the line variations that I want. Yeah, if I apply a light pressure, I can get those thinner lines more easily with this app. Okay, thin lines, thin, thick, thin, 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 thick, thick. Oops, what happened there? Okay, that's the issue with the side button. Let me just go out of that mode, the screenshot mode. Okay, so I am able to draw this sketch pretty quickly and get the lines to get most of the lines to come out the way I expect them to be. Yeah, this is actually yeah. As long as I hold the pen in this at the normal angle, I can get the lines to come out the way I expect them to. So the issue with the vertical and angled thick and thin problem doesn't apply here. Okay, this looks good. This actually performs better compared to Infinity Painter and Clip Studio. So with Clip Studio, you will probably need to adjust the pressure curve. Here's another sketch that I drew with Medibang Paint, and I did not experience any issues while drawing this. And this is how the sketch looks with colors added. I could probably get more line variation if I am more intentional, but this looks fine to me. Alright, to conclude, is this tablet worth getting if you are trying to find a tablet for drawing? I would say it's good enough for casual drawing, but not for professional art due to the inconsistencies with the performance with certain drawing apps. Because you need a pen that can perform well and consistently across all apps, and this is not a pen that can do so. It performs better in some apps, but not all apps. The drawing performance is actually fine. This is again Medibang Paint Pro, and it works fine with this app. I could get the thin and thick lines easily. I'm always talking about thin and thick lines because you want those lines to look interesting, so you need that line variation. And this app works great. As for the tablet itself, the hardware is fantastic. If you're looking for an Android tablet for general use, you're not using it for drawing, this is a fantastic tablet for the $300 to $400 price range. And if you're not buying this tablet for drawing, you don't have to spend money to get the pen. Now, the overall drawing performance is definitely not as good compared to the Samsung S Pen, but for casual drawing, this is definitely more than good enough. So for sketching, which is what I'm doing here, this tablet is definitely good enough for sketching. I did not experience any issues with the diagonal line wobble except during line tests. For example, I've just drawn this diagonal line here and I don't see any line wobble. This is quite straight. And this is without any software correction. Pressure sensitivity, palm rejection works okay most of the time. With certain apps, I notice sometimes when I have my palm on the display, the undo gesture will sometimes activate, or sometimes if I have the finger set to move the canvas, sometimes the finger or the palm will move the canvas without me wanting to move the canvas. So that can be an issue. But with some of those apps, you can actually turn off the palm rejection or customize the palm rejection. Okay, so can I recommend this tablet for drawing? Yeah, you just have to know the limitations before you buy it. Is this tablet better than the OnePlus Pad? The OnePlus Pad also has some issues with tilt sensitivity, and if you have not seen my artist review for that, do check out that review. The OnePlus Pad is significantly more expensive compared to the Xiaomi Pad 6, and due to the higher price point, I would recommend the Xiaomi Pad 6 over the OnePlus Pad any day. So this tablet does provide pretty good value for money as a tablet that also has pen support. Alright, before you go, do consider using my affiliate links in the video description below if you have the intention to buy this tablet for drawing. See you guys in the next video. Bye!